a Wednesday, Mr. Relevant. I'm Alex Strouf with you from the Gruber Law Offices. One call, that's all. Studio at the Avenue in downtown Milwaukee. Joshie DiMaggio, right on time, getting set up. He is here as well. Producer Tiny Ants Hunter Vaughn back at the Everlight Solar Studio in downtown Madison. Good to be back with you after a day off Monday. All three of us, to my understanding, hitting it hard at Brewers opening day, or home opener, I should say. Obviously opened the season last week in New York. They lose again Monday. They win last night, and now playing right now against the Kansas City Royals over at AmFam Field. So, Brewers might be back. We'll get to that a little bit later. But 0-4 start, not so sexy. But a win last night gets them on the winning side of things for the first time in 2025. They were the third to last team to win a game in 2025. So, it's always ideal. But, hey, a lot of season left. They'll be all right. Lots to get into in regards to the Packers, right? I mean, when you look down at the NFL owners' meetings down in beautiful Florida, lots of conversations being had, lots of rules being proposed, including the tush push. I did a quickie episode on that yesterday, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts, find Mr. Irrelevant. I talked about it for about 7 minutes. I just think the tush push thing is dumb and we can move on, but the owners choosing not to move on as they are tabling that discussion until later. The month after the NFL draft, late May, when the owners will come back together and they will ultimately make a ruling on the tush push. But to me, it's just dumb. We can just stop, but we'll see what happens there. But Chain Gang going to be secondary now. They will still be on the sideline, but we're going to go electronic with that. We're changing the overtime rules a little bit. If a team scores a touchdown on their first drive in overtime, a team will now have the opportunity to respond, which I think, to me, is a good thing. It's not great when it comes to your player safety. Your what's the word I'm looking for here, Joshie? Your initiatives, I think, is the word I'm looking for.
Sure.
Thanks, Joshie. Your player safety initiatives, not great for that. But so we will see. But I like the overtime change, and that's ultimately what they're getting into down in Florida. So we will see on that. But the main thing I want to react to today is just what is being said by the Packers head coach and general manager, Matt LaFleur and Brian Gutekunst, obviously both down in Florida for the NFL owners meetings, which I think wrap up today. They started on Sunday, and both of them taking plenty of time to meet with the media and talking about plenty of things, including revisiting some of the things they said at Locker Cleanout Day, which was the day after the Packers season ended, to the Philadelphia Eagles back in January. Brian Gutekunst had a quote that day in mid-January, so about 2.5 months ago, that we have talked about nonstop for the last 2.5 months, especially when it came to free agency. It was Goody saying, hey, we need to have more urgency. Right, and then he went, in that same spiel, kind of went on a tangent about how the shelf life of a player in the NFL isn't that long, and we have a bunch of talented dudes in that locker room, and it is time we start competing for championships. I think when we initially heard that quote in January, to me as a fan, it meant, okay, we're close, right? This is a good team, back-to-back playoffs, they've got their quarterback locked up. It's time to make the key additions they need to really make a push for an NFC championship and ultimately a Super Bowl championship here next year. And when you look at what they did in free agency, I don't think it screams sexy. I don't think it screams this goes from a 7 seed to a 1 seed. But there are certainly some improvements that were made with the additions of Nate Hobbs and Aaron Banks. The two big signings, and then, of course, McCole Hardman, I guess you could throw in there. But those were the two big signings they made in free agency. McCole Hardman came a little bit later. Cheap deal for a speedy wide receiver. We'll see if he even makes the roster or makes any sort of an impact, but it is a signing nonetheless. So Brian Gutekunst asked at the NFL owners meetings earlier in the week to follow up on his urgency comments. What exactly did you mean by that, Brian? And here is what Brian Gutekunst had to say in terms of urgency and the offseason as the Packers get ready for the 2025 season.
The urgency comment is really more, for our team, our organization to understand what the expectations are. At the same time, for us, I think we were very urgent in free agency. Obviously we went after a couple, top targets. We were able to acquire them. I think that really is going to help our football team. I think the urgency comment is across the board. I think it's for our players, it's for our organization, and just how we're going to approach things.
Yeah, so it's across the board. It's about our team, it's about our organization, it's about the players, it's about the coaches. What about him?
I think we're very urgent in free agency.
Yeah, that was the part he said in there that talked about him. What was that, Brian?
I think we were very urgent in free agency.
Yeah, I don't know if I agree with that. You certainly spent money. You were a top 10 spender in free agency, bringing in Aaron Banks, who you paid a pretty penny to play left guard and lock it down, as Elton Jenkins officially, by the way, announced this week will slide over and be the Packers center, ideally in 2025. So, yeah, we saw some hiccups in the offensive line in the postseason, and Brian Gutekunst addressed that. In corner, you really don't have a ton of guys under contract, so you bring in a guy who's never been a top-end corner in his career, but Goody seemingly likes. So I guess if that's how we define urgency, Brian Gutekunst's not wrong when he says this.
I think we were very urgent in free agency.
But when I look at it, urgency says, what were your biggest holes? What are your biggest holes? And whether that was prior to free agency or right now on April 2nd, your big holes still remain. You don't have a top-end receiver. You don't have a dominant pass rush. Those were the two big holes from a year ago. And those weren't addressed in free agency, and we'll get into it. I am fine with running it back, but I also don't expect to be a Super Bowl team with running it back. Right? I really like Jaden Reed. Joshy really likes Dontavian Wicks. I think those can be some really nice pieces here in the NFL. I like Rashawn Gary. I don't like what I've seen out of Rashawn Gary and the lack of production, but I like him as a player, and he's paid like a star player. Lucas Van Ness still has a lot to prove, and he's entering year 3. And in the NFL, obviously, naturally, there are jumps that come with those years, at least hopefully. You hope for that. Right? There was not a huge jump for Lucas Van Ness from year 1 to year 2. In terms of playing time, there was a bit of a jump. But production, well, Joshy's read some of the awful stats regarding Lucas Van Ness over the course of the last couple months. There hasn't been a huge jump. So the hope is that maybe this is the year he makes that jump. But to run it back at receiver and to run it back at edge does not scream urgency, despite Brian Gutekunst telling us he was urgent in free agency.
I think we were very urgent in free agency.
So that, I don't know, Brian. I don't know that I can agree with you, despite the fact you were spending money and you addressed some needs, right? You shore up the offensive line. You've got a little bit deeper of a cast there. That's great. We don't know if Jair is going to be on the roster. We still assume probably not. But bringing in Nate Hobbs to pair with Keyshawn Nixon and Carrington Valentine, sure, that's a move. I'm not disagreeing with that. That is not a number one corner. That is not a lockdown guy, but it is a guy that can play snaps and be efficient. I just don't know that I view the urgency that Brian Gutekunst views the same way. I'm curious from you, Joshy, when you hear Brian Gutekunst say, yeah, I think we were urgent in free agency. Do you agree because he spent the money? Or do you disagree because those moves don't scream urgency and championship level? Do you like me?
I find it very hard to argue that he didn't show urgency. He spent a lot of money on two positions he valued and viewed as big needs for the Packers. I can disagree with the path he took to spending that money, but I find it hard to argue that if you are preaching urgency and then you go out and retain Brandon McManus, you retain Isaiah McDuffie, you move on from Josh Myers, and then bring in two free agents off the street on what was the first day of free agency, that to me screams urgency. We could disagree with what are the most urgent needs for the Packers. I also don't, it's not lost on me that the two positions that everybody has glommed onto are the two of the sexiest positions in all of football. The pass catcher and the edge rusher, those are the ones people know about, they care about, they know more of those names than they know of offensive guards or even cornerbacks or anything along those lines. So would I have preferred Devontae Adams be part of that urgency? Of course. But urgency for Packers fans and free agency was literally signing anybody like 5 days into it. That was a great sense of urgency, and that was what we'd become accustomed to. I think adding two players with aggressive contracts the way they did is urgent. I also can make a case for the Packers have more investment at the wide receiver position and defensive end position. Would it be a mistake to invest even further and then end up with an embarrassment at riches where other places on the roster need a lot of changing. I am out on LVN. I could tell you Goody's definitely not.
Without a doubt.
He's going to give him another opportunity.
Yeah.
I am out on waiting around for the wide receivers to develop into a true number one. I don't think, and I'm like trying to, like there's, even the best situation, there's no Devontae Adams on the roster. Mm-hmm. There's no probably even Jordy Nelson. I think Jane Reed and Dontavian Wicks can be very useful pieces.
Yeah.
I think Wicks might develop into one of those guys who, based on role, could probably be more effective some places versus others. Jane Reed is a glorified gadget player at this point. Can't beat man coverage, but extremely useful when he gets his opportunities and is consistent. I don't think it's any... as part of this, the consistency was mentioned by both Brian Gutekunst and Matt LaFleur when it came to both those positions that we spent time on. He said the pass rush was fine at times, but it lacked consistency. When he talked about Matt LaFleur talked about the pass catchers, he said, well, we dropped a lot of balls and got a lot of inconsistent play. They've determined organizationally that those guys are talented and are better than we believe them to be.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how much I agree with that, and I don't know what the pinnacle is for this Green Bay Packers team. But if those two players do develop on like one on each side, the Packers are instantly in the conversation for Super Bowl contender.
I fully agree, and we'll get to that in just a second. But the definition of urgency, importance requiring swift action. So to your point, he was swift in his action.
Yeah.
We probably just disagree on the importance part, right? Was left guard as big of a hole as defensive end or wide receiver one? No. But was he swift in his action? He sure was.
Aggressive.
I would agree with that.
Yeah.
He spent his money. There's no denying that.
I do want to pass one message on to Goody. Stop telling me how much you spent in comparison to other people. That's not going to do you.
Nobody likes a bragger.
Yeah. Great, man. Awesome.
How many beers did you have at the party last night?
It's just like, yeah, cool. You had holes to fill. You did it. Congrats.
Good job doing your job.
Yeah.
We're very proud of you. Joshy just referenced the quote from Matt LaFleur on the wide receivers. I want to listen to that because I do want to talk about that position because it is clear, at least to some capacity, they're running it back with the addition of McCole Hardman, who, again, I'm not positive he'll make the roster. I think he'll have an opportunity to return kicks and punts, and that might be enough for him to make the roster. But I don't think they're viewing him as a fix at wide receiver, which, for whatever reason, some of our shows on ESPN Wisconsin treated it like he was being signed as a wide receiver one. That's definitely not what this is. McCole Hardman is going to be brought in as a piece and likely a special teams signing for Rich Bisaccia.
It took Matt LaFleur, listening to him, all about 10 seconds before he mentioned punt and kick return for him.
It's a nicer way to talk about McCole Hardman than maybe Aaron Rodgers did about Amari Rodgers, right? You know, like it's kind of the equivalent there. It's like, yeah, he's going to be a piece for us, but he's not going to be in the high in the rotation in the depth chart for wide receiver. But here's what Matt LaFleur said at the owners' meetings about the wide receiver position that obviously the Packers, outside of McCole Hardman, have not addressed whatsoever.
I mean, yeah, that's something that we took a deep dive at. I think that was a big part of it, to be honest with you. It's just we had a ton of drops, and that's an area that we have to clean up. And I mean, it takes all 11, right? We talk about it all the time. There were times where we had situations where we just didn't take advantage of it, and maybe it's just one guy missing a block, or a lot of things happen. There's a lot of variables, and it's definitely a long-winded answer, but I think that we've got a pretty good plan going into next season.
Similarly to Goody, I like how LaFleur about 20 seconds in goes, yeah, this is a long-winded answer, but we've got a good plan. I believe him, right? Like, I do believe about Matt LaFleur, for the most part, he deserves the benefit of the doubt. I think he's a good head coach. And the important part about this position group specifically, the wide receivers, is a lot of it depends on the play of the quarterback, right? I think something that was very clear, and we've been spoiled as Packers fans with great quarterback play the last 3 decades, but something that was really clear with Favre and Rodgers was, yeah, they had some nice pieces around them. I'm not denying that at all, right? I know we had Sharp and Driver and Jennings and Nelson and Adams, and I'm probably missing a few in between there. We had good pieces, but those guys also elevated the pieces around them. That's what great quarterbacks do, right? Is T. Higgins getting the paycheck he got this offseason without Joe Burrow? I'm not confident he is, despite the fact I still think he's a really good wide receiver. Quarterbacks help elevate those receivers. And we can all admit, we're all on the same page here. Jordan Love was not at his best last year. He had a fine season. It wasn't bad. It wasn't very good. It was just kind of meh. It was fine. It was a fine season for Jordan Love. He dealt with injuries. He played through them. I still really like some of the things I saw out of him. That gives me hope he is the quarterback for the long-term future for Green Bay. But you need him to take a step up. And obviously what comes along with that is you also need those guys to take a step up, and they can all help each other elevate to that next level. Just like we saw over that stretch a couple of years ago when Love was in the second half of the season the best quarterback in football. It's because Christian Watson and Romeo Doubs and Jaden Reed all took steps forward. You need everybody to take a step up, and that includes Jordan Love. Maybe because I've accepted the fact they're running it back at wide receiver, as much as we ran the BBD, bring back Devontae campaign into the ground as hard as we could. And then we made the, BIDK, was that it? Bring in DK campaign for a little bit. Yeah, we wanted a top end receiver, but it's been pretty clear, especially when they didn't call Devontae, that wide receiver wasn't going to be addressed, at least in free agency. And again, I don't really count McCole Hardman in there. Do I think the Packers will draft a speedy wide receiver? I do. I think that's probably a third-round thing, maybe a second-round thing at best, where the Packers go get a fast wide receiver because they need a vertical threat, and it's likely somebody that's going to see playing time early in the season with Christian Watson out. But having a good plan, I will take Matt LaFleur at his word on that. Now, does that mean they're going to be the most potent offense in the National Football League? Probably not. But will they make do with a quarterback that's still growing and learning and wide receivers that are still growing and learning? Yeah, I think so. And I know, obviously, we can throw guys like Tucker Kraft and Luke Musgrave into this conversation as pass catchers, because they will both have a role now that they're both fully healthy to start the season, at least as of now, knock on wood. They will play a role in the passing game, in the offense. This is just a position I think we got to tighten the belt on and say, put on the big boy pants. This is how it's going to be. Let's just hope for the second year in a row this is a group that takes the step forward, Joshy.
Yeah, I think there's some information in there that we're probably not football tape grinders enough.
Uh-oh.
Where Matt LaFleur keeps hinting to like pieces of the operation missing, not being right, and how there was some level of disconnect that caused sort of a drop overall. Like, I mean, at the end of the season, the Packers lost 3 consecutive games, and the offense looked disjointed in every single one of them. And it felt like it was more of an issue than we really paid attention to. It's easier for us to point at a wide receiver who drops a ball or a quarterback who throws an interception than it is like the offensive line missed the block, throwing off the timing. Therefore, this play that was open ended up not being open anymore because Love had to scramble and try and make something happen, and it caused him to force it. I think that is why we saw a focus on the offensive line and kind of shoring up. Josh Myers, they told us, played well for a lot of the season, kept telling us, and then the instant they were able to move on from him, they did, and they upgraded massively. I don't know what's going to happen with the wide receivers. I've believed for a while it was going to be a day 1 or day 2 pick. I'm sort of getting a little afraid of that idea, just because it seems like they have utter confidence in the 2 main guys that are going to be there, and then obviously Romeo Doubs, who now seemingly just doesn't get mentioned anymore.
Maybe not as much because he's entering the final year of his deal.
And because he didn't show up for work and all that stuff mixed in there.
The issue is you can't be over Romeo Doubs and you can't stop mentioning him because he's going to be on the field quite a bit.
Play. Yeah. I wouldn't be surprised to see him get phased out if we do see improvement from either of those 2 guys. In terms of, you mentioned both Kraft and Musgrave. I think everyone just needs to prepare for them being a bigger factor in the offense than we all anticipate.
Which I'm okay with.
Tucker Kraft was a pretty big part of the offense. I think his role is going to grow even more. But I do think Luke Musgrave, they drafted that guy high.
Sure did.
And immediately started playing him. And he was a little clumsy. Matt LaFleur had to make the joke about, hey, he finally stayed on his feet. But I think they have a big plan for him. And they want him to be a part of the offense. And they want him to stretch vertically. Remember at training camp 2 years ago?
Well,
the fastest GPS timed of anybody on the field?
Yeah, I mean, there was a couple notes coming out of Musgrave in the last 24 hours as well. Matt LaFleur telling Larry McCarron of Packers.com, quote, Musgrave is spending the offseason in Green Bay and is bigger, stronger, faster entering year 3. I'm excited for Luke, end quote. Zach Jacobson over at 247sports.com writing a big piece on how it's his 3rd season. The Packers just so happen to need a big-bodied vertical threat. So good piece by Zach over there on 247sports.com as well. So he is a guy who's getting a little bit of buzz this week down at the owners' meetings. Wasn't healthy entering last season. And obviously, as you mentioned, Tucker Kraft kind of carved out a giant role in the offense for himself, which is great, right? Like, I'm good with an elite tight end or 2 elite tight ends finding their roles, both entering year 3. We'll see how Matt LaFleur utilizes them, but they need more threats in the passing game, and those are 2 guys I think we have to accept are going to be a part of that.
Yeah, it just seems like he was drafted higher than Tucker Kraft.
He was, second-round pick.
Pro ready. Like, we basically didn't get to see him last year. He did make some appearances, but wasn't really used because I think the offense had sort of evolved to a point that Matt LaFleur didn't anticipate, and he was more focused on, well, we do this well, let's try and keep the wheels going here, and let's not try and add in the Luke Musgrave factor. I did find it interesting that LaFleur kind of poo-pooed the leading receiver being Tucker Kraft portion.
Did you get new glasses?
I've had these for approximately 4 months now.
Okay, I thought they were different.
I did think it was interesting that he took time to say basically, well, we use him too many ways for him to be like a true leading wide, like a Travis Kelce or a Gronk guy. He's in line, he's chipping, he's doing those things. Whereas, what it also sounds like is, guess whose role's increasing? The other guy we drafted earlier than him.
Yeah.
That's sort of where my mind went when he was talking that way.
I tend to agree, and we'll see, right? Like, you've got some weapons. Again, I don't want to make this doomsday because it's not like the Packers don't have any options.
Right.
We were just longing and clamoring for a number 1 option, and that's why the Devontae Adams thing was so intriguing, because we thought it would help bring those guys along with them to that next level. But without a veteran presence in the room, unless they're counting McCole Hardman, these guys are just going to do what they did last year, and hopefully it's a better result. But I think, again, it lands on Love quite a bit. You need him to take a jump too, right? He is certainly just as guilty as everybody else of.
That's the biggest bet they're making.
What, Jordan Love?
Yes.
Oh, without a doubt.
They paid it and made the bet, but him playing better is what I think, without a doubt, you can get similar production out of in terms of like similar abilities. If Jordan Love plays better, throws less interceptions, is more accurate with the ball, that just simply relates to like massive statistical improvement.
I want to ask you your biggest worry in terms of position group in just a second, but I just kind of want to wrap this up in a 5-second bow for you. Here is how I think the Packers are viewing all of the things we've talked about this offseason. They are viewing it as edge rushing and pass rush was more of a coaching issue than it was a personnel issue. Right? They changed the pass rush coordinator and the defensive line coach. They kept pretty much everybody else the same. They view that as more of an issue. In terms of receivers, they view it as these guys are a young issue, and Jordan Love didn't maybe take the biggest jump that we expected him to issue. These are all things that they think with development will take the next step in 2025. I can't tell them they're wrong. I'm just saying what we saw last year didn't indicate any of those things were maybe the case. But maybe you do bring in Covington, the new pass rush scheme coordinator, and he takes this thing to a next level, and he unlocks something in Rashawn Gary and Lucas Van Ness we just haven't seen in the last couple of years. Maybe Jaden Reed and Dontavian Wicks finally are ready to be those number 1 guys and really, really impactful receivers in the NFL. And maybe Love's injuries were bigger deals than we knew about last year, right? Maybe he was more hobbled and more hurt than maybe we were privy to in 2024. So that is how I think the Packers are viewing it. We can view it differently. We're allowed to do that, but I think that's how they view it. And maybe they'll be right. Maybe they'll be wrong. We'll all find out come the season start in about 5 months. So that's that. Joshy, is defensive end still your biggest position group worry?
I think so. I think I could also argue that quarterback is...
That's actually where I was going to go.
Is probably the top of it, but I've seen that unit be virtually zeros in terms of production, and it really changes the whole approach. Even performing slightly above average, I think would have been a massive lift to the defense and them getting off the field a little bit more. I don't want to discount what Jeff Hafley managed to do and greatly improve that defense to a degree I don't think people still appreciate correctly. If you remember your frustrations regarding Joe Barry, those were pretty much all alleviated. There was a couple hiccups first year DC, I get it. But he started to get head coach interviews, and there's a reason for that. Mm-hmm. That's because there was massive improvements across the board on the defense. But my fear is Lucas Van Ness is hardly an NFL player. Rashawn Gary is going to have another 6 or 7 sack season. You're going to have some injuries in there, and then you're going to be playing Brenton Cox Jr. a whole lot more than you want to. And those guys just aren't going to be productive because I do view pass rush as probably the most important part of any defense.
Yeah.
And I do view those guys performing as a sort of thing that would be just an absolute boost to the defense. It's interesting we spent time talking about how the Packers and a lot of teams are trying to mirror what the Eagles have done. The Eagles were really good at two things, their offensive line and defensive line. The Packers approached the offensive line and tried to make it better. Where's the defensive improvement is sort of where you would look for. And where
the only answer you have is coaching.
Yes. Which I don't want to be harsh, but I don't think Jalen Carter is walking through those doors like that. To some degree, the talent is just the talent.
Yeah.
You can coach up LaTroy Guion as much as you want to be.
What a name, yes.
He'll never be Jalen Carter.
So the other part of that, too, though, is on what the Eagles are good at and the Packers just haven't been as good at is a lot of those guys are homegrown, too, right? Their draft picks have hit. The Packers, on the other hand, especially in the first round, not so much, especially in recent years. So that's the big thing. I want to get to some of these YouTube comments in just a second, so keep those coming. ESPN Madison, ESPN Milwaukee on YouTube. Before we get there, though, Joshy, you sent me this right before the show. Mm-hmm. Edge rusher Trey Hendrickson of the Bengals on the Pat McAfee show talking about his extension talks. Quote, communication has been poor over the last couple of months. That's something I hold in high regard. They have not communicated with my agent directly. It's been something that's been a little bit frustrating. End quote. So it does not certainly seem like a deal is anywhere near done for Trey Hendrickson of the Bengals. The 31-year-old pass rusher who led the league in sacks last season has been available, but the Bengals not wanting to trade him, saying they're working on an extension. I saw their executive vice president said that Trey Hendrickson should be happy with the numbers he's been offered. This definitely isn't over, but I think if what we've talked about today is any indication, I'd put it at about a 1.2% chance the Packers end up acquiring Trey Hendrickson. Are you going any higher than me?
No. The original reports are the Bengals are asking for the sun and the moon, and then they need a contract extension as well. But it is no coincidence that Trey Hendrickson is appearing on the Pat McAfee show. It's because him and his agent have determined it's time to put the pressure on.
Leverage, baby, leverage.
And force some action here. It's probably most likely he remains a member of the Bengals, but the Bengals are running out of money. And the Bengals are one of a handful of teams that you could put the Browns, the Giants, some of those other teams in there where they are poorly run. They don't know how to do things the right way, and they will make mistakes that benefit other teams. There's not a lot of teams I would say I would put into that category, but stuff like this happens. So the fact there's some hope, at least there's something, there's an option. They could take Rashawn Gary. Mm-hmm. He's all yours.
Yeah.
Swap them out 1 for 1. I'm cool with it.
Yeah, but do they have the money to pay for Rashawn Gary is the issue. Because what is he? He's got to be a top 5 defensive end, if not top 10.
I don't think he's top 5 anymore. I think he's closer to the top 10.
Yeah, I mean, regardless, he has owned a lot of money over the course of the next couple of years. Yeah, he is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9th in terms of total value. Also 9th in terms of average per year. So behind only. Here are the names that he is behind, by the way. Who would you rather have? Let's just play this. Would you rather have this guy or Rashawn Gary? Real quick. Myles Garrett of the Browns.
Obviously, Garrett.
Danielle Hunter of the Texans.
Hunter.
Max Crosby of the Raiders.
Crosby.
Nick Bosa of the Niners.
Bosa.
Josh Hines-Allen of the Jags.
Hines-Allen.
Brian Burns of the Giants.
Burns.
TJ Watt of the Steelers.
TJ.
And finally, Montez Sweat of the Bears.
I view them as pretty similar.
Behind Rashawn Gary, Trey Hendrickson.
Yeah, give me that one.
Yep. So,
I mean, he's literally the past 2 seasons the most productive pass rusher in all the NFL.
correct. And then a couple names behind him: Gregory Rousseau of the Bills, who's had a nice stint there in Buffalo. Josh Sweat, who just recently signed with the Cardinals. Jonathan Greenard of the Vikings. Bradley Chubb, Khalil Mack, Bryce Huff, Alex Highsmith. So,
Yeah.
that's about the area where Rashawn Gary lives in terms of his paycheck. And you're going to take just about every name over him.
Yeah. He was stealing last year.
He was. So there you go. All right, let's take a look at some of these YouTube comments before we get into One Word Wednesday. Bill chimes in at the beginning of the show. Random question, but I love it, from our guy Bill. Who is going to be running back 2 and number 3? You think they are going to get rid of our boy Emmanuel Wilson? For those of you that aren't aware, Emmanuel Wilson a couple of years ago was playing in that postseason where the Packers beat the Cowboys and then ultimately lost to the 49ers. I was not happy he was on the field, and Bill has held that against me ever since.
Frankly mean about it.
I was not nice. I mean, we can certainly put it that way. I do believe Emmanuel Wilson will not be a Packer. I think they would keep Chris Brooks ahead of him at this point, and Marshawn Lloyd is a guy they want to get on the field. So that would be my guess.
Don't be surprised if the Packers draft a running back a lot earlier than you anticipate.
Define that.
In the 3rd, 4th, 5th.
I think it makes sense.
The level of talent in this draft at the running back position is maybe the deepest like we've seen since like running the football was all they really did at the NFL level. The amount of guys who have good draft grades and people are high on reaches up to like 15, 20.
Wow.
Which is not usually where we're at. There's guys that had remarkably productive NCAA careers and good testing to go with it that are merely afterthoughts. It's pretty clear the Packers and most teams at this point, unless you have Saquon Barkley or Derrick Henry, want a multifaceted approach. Josh Jacobs is really only here for another year.
Yeah.
That we can guarantee.
Guarantee, right.
And if I were to make a bet, knowing how much usage he's gotten last year and will get next year, and the amount of money somebody would be willing to pay for Josh Jacobs, he's probably not going to be around. They've seen nothing. We've seen nothing from Marshawn Lloyd for us to make any decition
nothing
on
so
what
far.
kind of player he is. But no one really thought of Marshawn Lloyd as a guy who's going to take over and control the running back room. He's a piece. He's a part of a committee, and I think the Packers want a committee. They want multiple guys. They want multiple options. And to add a third guy in there who pushes Marshawn Lloyd and then can spell Josh Jacobs seems like a logical move from the Packers.
Yeah, I think that's right. Chris Brooks I'm so high on, as you know, because he plays a little bit of that fullback role. So they could
What do you
roster.
mean high on? What does that even contextualize high on Chris Brooks?
I am a big Chris Brooks fan. He's just like a random piece that
You know
evolved
he's
last.
25?
Yeah, he's young.
I mean, he's old. People thought he was like a rookie.
Oh, okay. I thought. I got to be honest. I thought he was older than that.
No, I mean, he's not like some
Because
spring.
he was in Miami for a few years, right?
Yes.
But you're gonna say he's not like some spring chicken, but it's like he's not getting the workload of Josh Jacobs is. It's not like his body's been through hell and back the last couple of years.
He ran a 4.63.
He's a fullback. I just said that.
Yeah. Fullbacks don't deserve to be in the NFL.
Oh, that's a bad take. Hunter, how do you think friend of show Alec Ingold would feel about that comment?
Yeah, that's disrespectful. Fullback can still
Sorry,
be used
Alec.
in the
You
NFL.
seem like a nice guy.
I just don't think Josh
Not
knows
my
ball
roster.
well enough to be able to use a fullback properly.
Oh,
Wow. All-knowing accusations.
If the other teams aren't using it, why should we?
Well, I've literally been seeing videos of like the Vikings dropping that fullback in there when teams go too high safety. So you get the fullback coming through the line, pick up one of the linebackers, wide open hole for your running back. If teams are going to sit back in a shell defense, fullback, baby, it's coming back.
Guess what? We've got a better fullback. His name's Tucker Kraft.
Alex T.
Want him out there?
I'm ignoring that. No, we're ignoring that. Alex T on the ESPN Madison YouTube chat says the only way they can take a step up is by Matt LaFleur taking a step in his play calling.
I mean, come on. When you break down last year, was Matt LaFleur's play calling? Now, let's not forget, he pretty much single-handedly won 2 games with Malik Willis.
That is correct.
By having a game plan that nobody could figure out.
Yeah.
They ran like 7 or 8 plays, but they were all variations that confused defenses. Everyone knew Josh Jacobs was getting the ball, and they couldn't do bleep about it.
Are we Matt LaFleur defenders on the show?
If I have to be that guy, yes, I will be.
Okay. Tran on the ESPN Milwaukee YouTube chat says, what we lack is grit. Who is our toughest player? It's Tucker Kraft. What happened when we played against the teams that embody grit? Detroit, our toughest player was knocked down his ass. Grit. That's what Tran says, ESPN Milwaukee.
Yeah. I'm sure they're grading grit at the scouting combine and saying this is a guy that can raise our grit level.
Grading grit. I like that.
I mean, come on.
Chef Ed wondering, who's that guy without the flannel?
It's me. It's a little cold this morning. Had to take the dog out in the rain. I was shivered to the bones.
Shivered to the bones.
Uh-huh.
Has anyone ever told you you're a ginormous dork?
No.
Okay. Dork would be my one word to describe Josh DiMaggio's effort today. We get to our favorite game we play each and every Wednesday. It's called One Word Wednesday. Hunter Vaughn comes up with a list of topics. Joshy and I respond with one word and then usually additional words, which is kind of defeats the purpose of the segment, but it's totally fine. Let's play One Word Wednesday.
All right. We are going to start with an NFL mock draft on ESPN.com. Field Yates has the Cowboys selecting McMillan, the wide receiver from Arizona, at 12th overall.
Seems like a Jerry pick. Jerry.
I was going to say Lamb. But yeah, that does seem like a Jerry pick.
Close there. Probably seen some of those games on local TV.
Yeah. Likes his speed.
They're in the Big 12
God,
now.
Could you imagine it?
Yep.
Yeah.
Could you imagine him and CD together?
Yeah.
That's Jerry. I like Jerry there.
Sticking with the mock draft, Field Yates has Goody going back to his favorite school, Georgia, with Michael Williams at number 23, the edge rusher.
The thing is, realistic is my word here. I think there's a really good chance Michael Williams is the pick at 23. Georgia, edge, knocks out a need, knocks out the school Goody loves. One of the higher ranked edge rushers in this draft. I've seen him mocked here in a ton of different drafts. Realistic would be my word.
Good pick. Seems like it. I'm not afraid of going back to the Georgia well. There's a reason their defense is really, really good. They got a lot of really, really good players. Some of the best defensive players in the NFL come from Georgia. Goody's just picked the wrong ones. Go back to the well.
In the second round, Field Yates has the Packers going with Jack Beach, wide receiver from TCU.
I believe... Is it Beck has actually...
I don't.
B-E-C-H.
I honestly, I thought it was one of the two, and I just guessed.
I believe they did a feature on him because his brother was tragically killed in the New Orleans terrorist attack, if it's described as that. Whatever happened there. Sure. Fine.
Fast. Need speed.
What was Jack's testing?
He ran a 4. No, I lost it.
I'm going to
I've
say
got his RAS score. 926. He ran a incomplete. I do not see any testing here for him on the 40.
All right, fantastic. Glad we got that out of the way. Good job, guys.
teamwork right there. In the NBA, Carmelo Anthony, it was announced, has been elected to the Naismith Basketball Hall of Fame class of 2025.
Deserving.
Hoodie.
Wow, you're so creative.
For
Remember
all those listening, he put his hood up, put his headset back on, and then said hoodie.
Thank you, Josh. Thanks for describing that. Do you guys remember when Melo was towards the end of his career? He went to the Oklahoma City Thunder, and they were I think Scott Brooks was still the head coach there, and they were pitching around the idea of Melo coming off the bench. And then he went on a tangent at his introductory press conference about how he ain't coming off the bench, and he's not a player that comes off the bench. And then ultimately, he came off the bench. Yeah, it's a great Melo era. What'd you say? Deserving? Yeah.
Still averaged 16 points a game that year, that one fateful year with OKC.
Good era for him. Hoodie Melo, the best.
Next, Florida fans starting to see the light, as I've got a tweet on the video stream saying that I really feel like, looking back, Graham Mertz gets some praise, but not nearly enough recognition that he actually deserves. Definitely landing as one of my all-time favorites. A reply then was, glue guy that happened to play quarterback. Florida fans same page.
I got one word, and I'm going to speak for both Strouf and I. Boycott. I'm boycotting this segment until we move on.
Okay, Graham Mertz, awesome. Buzz Williams, former Marquette coach, before he left to go to Virginia Tech and then Texas A&M, is headed back or up to the Big Ten now, as he will become the Maryland head coach.
Okay, this is Josh is going to yell at me here because it's a cop-out. My word is going to be Buzz, because I want to know his real name. There's no way his parents named him Buzz, right?
I mean, it seems easily.
Hold on, before you look it up, guess his name.
I bet it's something like John.
I'm going to say Scott.
Brent Langdon Buzz Williams.
Brent Buzz. He's just a retread. That maybe be my word. He's a guy that's been around the block 800 times, has never gotten over the hump. I don't think this is going to do a lot for Maryland. It's a proven commodity, which is fine, but I would imagine this fan base isn't super energized by this hiring. So retread or Buzz would be my word.
My word is caffeine. I can't find the source of it, but I remember reading a story a while ago about the insane amount of caffeine that Buzz Williams intook, which then explained his level of sweat and how that would happen to somebody who seemingly wasn't participating in physical activities away. I believe it was an old ESPN or Sports Illustrated story, but the guy was housing energy drinks like none other.
Okay, so he's worse than me, is what you're saying.
Yes.
By the way, breaking news, did not have a soda today.
Oh, good for you.
Have we soda bullied you?
Have you what?
Soda bullied you.
No, I had a soda yesterday.
Where you're becoming a little more picky and choosy, maybe less frequently?
So, big night Saturday night. Sunday, I had to, run a couple errands. I was housing a Baja Blast while I was running those errands. Brought me back to life a little bit. Yeah, brought me back to life. It was good. I was thinking about you guys, though, while I was doing that.
Yesterday, if you guys didn't know, was April Fool's Day. So a lot of college football teams were tweeting that they'd be changing the color of their turf, and Boise State was then replying. So Cal said they were going to change their turf to yellow. Boise State replied with, do it, you won't. They also replied to another school and said, cease and desist.
Social. Goodbye, Boise State on the socials.
Mine is lame. I think
April's Fool's Day in general is lame.
Very lame.
I must say, though, I might be the king of April Fool's Day.
And now you're going to try and claim that you're an April Fool's guy. Great.
Yeah.
This will go so well.
The best prankster going.
Me. We got Benny to believe, Benny Brust on Kyle Brust on weekdays 2 to 5, that he got all 15 questions correct. And are you smarter than Ben Brust? He believed us for a good 25 seconds, including some of the answers he gave. Who is the king of the gods in Greek mythology? The answer, of course, Zeus. He said Thanos.
Yeah.
What is the hardest natural substance in the world? The answer is diamond. He said rock. Just some of the highlights in there.
Yeah, that is a good reason to say, and why I feel comfortable saying that it's stealing candy from a baby. That wasn't a good prank.
Yeah.
You had somebody.
Did you laugh though?
No.
I laughed at his Thanos response.
It's just he's. Of course he's gonna believe it. He doesn't know anything.
Moving on. I went and voted yesterday, and for the first time ever, I actually got an I voted sticker, and was way more excited about that than I maybe should have been. Came busting into the office here in Madison, saying, "Guys, I got my I voted sticker."
Civics.
I was gonna say duty, D-U-T-Y, by the way, not poop. I actually respect this move by you. I always get excited about the sticker. I've got no problem with this.
I never had taken a sticker, ever. And I was accused of a few elections ago of not going because I did not have said sticker to prove it. So I now bring it, put it on the table at home, and then never look at it again.
So you got bullied by your girlfriend, I assume.
Yes, Mussolini. Funny to mention around elections and democracy. Said, "Did you actually go?" And I said, "Yeah." Like, you think I went to the polling location and just sat in the car?
So you got bullied by your girlfriend who you live with to get a sticker.
Yes.
Actually, I love this play by her.
Yeah, I mean, I had. You can check. I had.
You can find that.
Yeah.
It's not hard information to find.
So it's just like, I guess I do it now, and now it's just kind of a thing I do, and I've started just leaving it random places where she'll stumble upon it.
So this is a sticker spite.
Yes, yeah, because I find the Instagram post or the wherever it gets posted lame.
I did not post it yesterday, but I did take a picture.
I'll never.
Yeah.
Over my dead body. Well,
Let me rephrase.
Nor will I ever
did
put
not
it on my body.
I did not take the picture.
You had a picture taken of you?
Yeah, that's correct. That I posed for. I smiled.
Generally what you do with pictures.
That's accurate. So I put the sticker on my vest, and then I lost it. I don't know where it went. Must not stick to the fabric very well. So there you go.
The Milwaukee Bucks in a 133-123 win over the Suns last night posted a franchise record 68.9% field goal percentage last night.
Yeah, impressive is the word, but the result not so much. You only won that game by 10 points, and you had the highest field goal percentage since 1998, so essentially of my lifetime. And you barely won the game. But a win's a win. Giannis looked terrific last night. Bucks needed that after losing 4 in a row. It was a great night last night. Bucks and Brewers both get a win yesterday for the first time in a while. First time they have both won on the same night in almost a year. So we'll take it like that.
Fine. I couldn't be more out on the Bucks rest of the season.
Now
My wind has been fully taken from myself.
Well, I saw Shams hinting maybe Dame could be back for the postseason.
Yeah.
Give you a little hope then?
No. Because how ready is he going to be to play?
Hopefully ready.
You'd hope, but from all I know
Fresh
about
legs, baby.
Other people going through similar things, your activity is basically cut to zero,
right,
because of the risk to long-term or fatal damage. Even if you're able to get in better shape with some sort of ramp-up, that's not NBA playoffs, because NBA playoffs is way different than even the regular season. It is a whole different game.
That's accurate.
I just don't see it mattering much, and it makes me depressed thinking about it.
Okay. Fair enough.
Okay. One last one.
Don't want you depressed.
So we were all three of us separately were at the Brewers home opener on Monday, and before the game they played a tribute to Bob Uecker. A gentleman in my section, towards the end of it, when they were doing like a moment of silence, yelled, "We love you, Bob." I always find it weird that people will yell things during moments of silence, even if it's at the tail end.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a good take by you.
Didn't have a one word here, just didn't know where else to share this.
I got a word, Strouf. This is a look at me guy move.
So I fully agree with that, but it's not something I would do.
No, but it is somebody of your...
It's a step up from you.
Thing. Yeah, I hear you. Yeah.
They are one like step away, one logical move away.
Yeah, that's certainly not a move I would ever make, but I hear what you're saying because I was just about to say this is certainly a look at me move.
Yeah.
Even though he was trying to make it about Bob Uecker, but it was really about him.
Right.
Everybody else is following orders.
Everyone there understood the love for Bob Uecker. It goes without being said.
Correct. I mean, he is a Wisconsin legend. So yeah, bad taste. I tweeted this on Monday. Right at the top of the second inning, a fan sitting behind me yelled, "Sell the team!" And I just thought to myself, okay, we are 28 minutes into the game.
Mm-hmm.
We are 28 minutes into the first home game of the season. At least we made it out of the first inning. That was kind of my thought.
Yeah. You're not going to hear me stumping for Mr. Mark.
No, I won't either, but it seems early.
Oh, I don't think it has anything. The outcome might have caused the release.
They were down 4-0, yeah.
But what's happened basically the past 3 years is probably really what's being referenced here.
Correct.
Maybe spending like bottom 10 of your how much you earn on your payroll.
Yeah.
Especially
when stuff
you're,
like that.
Yeah, and when your team is in the middle of Major League Baseball in revenue, it's a bad look. I even tweeted after the game, like, I didn't have fun and this team isn't competitive. What's your job, Mark? Like, I mean, what are we doing? I'm really frustrated with the team, and they're tied up 1-1 right now, and finally actually won a game, and I'm still frustrated.
1-4. Currently in their sixth game of the season, and we have 156 more of these puppies. A lot of season left. I understand the frustration, but this is still a young team.
It got so ugly. I don't think you are stepping out of line to question. Wait, how good is this team?
Oh, relax.
I mean,
relax.
You gave up record-breaking amounts of home runs
because the Yankees
cheated. You couldn't score any runs.
Yankees cheated, Josh.
It is. The questions went away because, well, it seemingly they always do this every single year. But if it all fell apart one year, would you really be floored? Oh my God. The Brewers finished fourth in the NL Central. Would it really be that shocking?
I'd be surprised.
Slightly, I wouldn't be shocked.
Yeah, maybe not shocked.
It'd be like, yeah, this is sort of what happens. You guys played above your weight for a long time.
47 runs allowed in their first 4 games.
Unbelievable.
0-4 to start. 47 runs allowed.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and I get it. They only have a certain amount. They have 2 healthy starting pitchers right now.
Yeah.
You know what would help if you maybe paid for some to either stay on the team or bring some in?
Yeah.
They're getting, they've been getting rocked.
Yeah, Corbin Burns looked pretty good against the Yankees last night. I had that game on the TV. He's now with the Diamondbacks. Be nice if he was still around.
Did he give up 3 strikeouts and 3 pitches? 3 home runs and 3 pitches?
No, he definitely did not. He gave up, I think, 3 runs over like 5 innings.
Nestor Cortez has put me in a spot where now he's on the team I root for, but I'm going to continue to root against him.
Yeah, he's your least favorite player for whatever reason. Where did that come from?
I hate his delivery. I hate the way he hangs his foot there and tries to. I mean, the guy's juicing 87-mile-per-hour fastballs
Not
over
great,
the heart of
yeah.
all his peripheral numbers point to him not being a good pitcher. And he was one of the core things the Brewers brought back for Devin Williams. I don't think it was a smart move.
Nestor Cortez to Josh is Jesse Winker to me.
You guys got a lot of hate in your heart.
Pitch better.
Don't have 2 at-bats in the playoffs and only see 6 pitches.
Yeah. Jesse.
Jackson Churio single there in the bottom of the 5th inning. He is on base now for the Brewers. He's now 2 for 3 on the day, including his first home run of the season. So Churio might be back, baby.
They're heating up.
Churio might be back.
Trying to be positive.
I bet on him to have over 30 home runs.
Well, a lot of game left.
Got a little extra juice on that one.
A lot of season left. 156 games after today remain.
I believe in him.
I believe in the Brewers. A lot of season left. Just hit the brakes. Be all right. Let him get healthy. Let's get to April. Well, we're in April. Let's get to the end of April, and then we'll evaluate.
See, let him get healthy. It's like the names. Believe me, I've seen the Dom tweets and the Adam McKelveys. The healthy past Brandon Woodruff, you're going, I mean, what do we know we're going to get out of this guy?
DL Hall is still on
fair.
there. Jose Quintana hasn't fully ramped up yet. Yeah, I know,
Isn't
but
Tobias Myers hurt?
Yeah, Myers is hurt too. There's somebody else.
Jose Quintana was basically free.
Oh, he was free and he's old. I mean,
yes,
but I don't know if that one's going to work out.
I'm not saying he's a top end of the rotation guy. I think he is we can throw him in, get like 3 innings out of him to start a game as an opener to try and like work the rotation at the end of the year. Like he's going to be coming out of the pen in games. Like he's still a piece that they can use.
I anticipate at some point this season, Jose Quintana going out. The Brewers are desperate for starter, need some innings. He's going to have a blow-up game, and Pat Murphy's going to look at him and go, good luck, bud. We need a few innings here.
Good luck,
Stay out there.
Good advice.
That always happens, and you always feel so bad. A guy's clearly struggling, but the team doesn't have enough innings in the bullpen to get through it, and the guy's just basically out there taking a beating, and they're just saying, just get us 3 more outs, please. Just get us through.
All right, you learn something new every day. We learned something new today, including Josh's hatred for Nestor Cortez and potentially Jose Quintana as well. Not a mustache guy?
Not his.
Doesn't he also have like
have a mustache?
The black? Now he's got like a black beard, but he like bleached his hair, and you can just barely see it like along the like sideburns. It's super gross.
All right, you learned something new today. Whatever I usually say here. It's time for What We Learned on Mr. Irrelevant. What I've learned is Aaron Rodgers still unpredictable. Still really never know what he's going to do. Him teaming up with DK Metcalf, where were they again?
UCLA.
I thought he was in a different country.
No, I think McAfee's
LA's still in the U.S., Strouf.
Yeah.
I know you're not a city guy, but...
So the McAfee show is having a live show on the 9th, I believe.
Where at?
It's in Pittsburgh.
Oh. Yeah, I see what you're getting at.
Yeah.
Gonna hold out for a week?
Mr. Hero gets to be raucous applause.
Oh, this would be as bad as the decision by LeBron.
I don't think so because he's not as relevant or as big of a talent remaining. He's certainly as big of a star.
Yeah.
And everyone knew in the NBA, wherever LeBron goes, there's going to be titles that follow. It's just an eventuality. I don't think people will think the same of it, but let me tell you, it will make a big stir. And that seems like the right time to do it. I have a What We Learned, by the way.
Oh, go for it.
There's a new bar coming to West Allis, not far from where we are right now. It's a slingshot bar.
I don't know what that means, Josh.
It means exactly as I said. It is a bar, and it seems to be a play on the axe throwing, which tacky, hate them, annoying. You are just
axe throwing bars are fun.
Yeah,
no,
you can throw an axe at Strouf's face. It's a great time.
You just use a slingshot and you shoot at targets and break glass and break things.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Sounds like fun.
That one, it seems like you go once. Like, I can't imagine myself, or really anyone, becoming a regular of the slingshot bar.
Oh, you don't know how people work, brother. There's going to be regulars there.
Yeah, like pickleball has become a thing.
Some BBs off. Oh, by the way, I watched a thing, I think it was on Twitter, and they're like, look at this. Folly for pickleball. That I know Tausch loves it. I know there's people here that
I like pickleball.
I mean, trying to do it.
Yeah, we're done here.
It's made for the elderly.
Yep. Yeah, it's
Hunter, you better have a damn good what we learned. This has been a rough showing.
Slingshot bar? That's perfectly you. It's just douchey enough to be a thing you'd love.
I used up
I
my
don't know
what we
about that.
learns with the voting sticker and the yelling during the Uke tribute. I was
Great.
running out of things for one word, so I had to.
Slingshot bar guy.
Yeah.
Slingshot bar. No.
Yeah.
I'm not going to be
Yes,
slingshot.
You're going to end up there.
I'm, gonna
Yeah.
go, I'm only going with you. The only way I go is if you go with me.
Field trip?
Yeah. We can go investigate. Mr. Irrelevant on the scene.
Did you ever own a slingshot as a kid?
No.
What?
I own a Nerf gun.
It feels like a red. I owned a slingshot. There was a time, and
I own a
it's probably
slinky.
it was probably prior to your time, where for some reason slingshots were like a big deal for kids.
Yep.
It must have been some sort of marketing ploy. But Hunter, do you remember that?
I do. I was more of a BB
And
gun
people were
kid.
using. People were even like paintballs was part of it.
Yeah.
With the slingshot?
Yeah.
This. Yeah, no.
It works
Huh?
and it hurts
Definitely
just as
wasn't
bad
that.
as a paintball gun.
Yeah, there was an era where, yeah, I remember being out in my backyard with a slingshot and paintballs shooting at a target. Don't know why. I was out there, though.
I can't wait to go to the bar with you. You're going to be good at it. Okay, we're done here. We didn't even talk about torpedo bats. Good for us.
I mean, we alluded to it, and you could have just gone
We did say
through the
the
rest of
Yankees
the
were
show and not mentioned it, and then we would have actually not talked about it.
Cheaters.
I'm dubious on how revolutionary the idea is.
I think the Brewers just pitched really poorly. I think it's
No,
as simple as
no,
that.
Yankees cheated. Yankees cheated. I will not hear anything else.
Now, I feel like I might be a little loaded here, but I think they just ran into Nestor Cortez.
Nope,
I
Yankees
think
cheated.
you're right about that.
No,
Because what were 3 of the home runs were by Aaron Judge?
That is correct.
And 4 over the entire weekend?
That is correct.
Yeah.
Yankees
Normal
cheated.
bat user.
No, Yankees
Now,
cheated, and they have the short
it is
porch and
under-
right. Nope.
It is underrated how funny it is that Anthony Volpe sucks at hitting so bad they had to move the sweet spot. I think that just means you're bad at hitting.
Yeah, it might not mean you're cut out for the major leagues, but here we are anyway. Okay, that does it for us today. We're back with you Friday beginning at 12:30 Central. ESPN Milwaukee, ESPN Madison on YouTube. Thanks to Joshy. Thanks to Hunter. We will talk to you then just a couple of weeks away from the NFL draft coming to Green Bay. We've got some awesome stuff in the works. Can't wait to share all that, what we've got going on during draft week. But we will cross that bridge when we get there. We'll talk to you Friday. In the meantime, take care of yourself. Make decent decisions. We'll talk to you Friday. Peace.